All Indiana Politics
is your premier source for Indiana politics.
Focusing on issues that matter to you.
I still want us to be the best in the Midwest.
We can't afford another lockdown.
Give the citizens of this country the relief they need.
Education in the state of Indiana remains priority number one.
In-depth, nonpartisan coverage.
We don't know exactly where the economy will be in January.
People are worried with good reason.
Exclusive interviews with Indiana's political leaders.
We have the resources here in the state of Indiana to care for those who are in need.
Expert analysis on critical legislation.
We need to reform those laws.
This recovery is going to take some time.
We've got to anticipate that there'll be a budget shortfall.
From Wish TV, this is All Indiana Politics Podcast on the All Indiana Podcast Network.
Good Sunday morning. Welcome to another edition of All Indiana Politics. I'm Phil Sanchez. Governor Eric Holcomb is adding 2 more countries to his itinerary as governor. He's wrapping up his first ever trade trips to Mexico and Brazil. He joined me from Mexico City to talk about his goals and what's in it for Hoosiers back home. Well, Governor Eric Holcomb has embarked on his second international economic development trip for this year. He's visiting Brazil and Mexico to talk about ag bioscience and agricultural economics. Governor Eric Holcomb joining us now with more on his trip. Governor, good to see you. For starters, this marks your first visit to these countries. How's it been so far?
First, but not my last, I hope. This has been such a reminder about how important it is to get out and hustle and to be face to face with the very folks you're wanting to do business with. Obviously, while it's my first visit to Brazil and Mexico, it's not the first connection or visits that the Indiana Economic Development Corporation. We've had long-standing relations and conversations ongoing. We've had business-to-business relations that are well established in both of those countries and out of Indiana, be it with our Weaver popcorn or Far Best turkey or maple leaf duck, Corteva, Elanco, Cummins, Lilly, The list goes on and on. But it's always good to say thank you to the companies, Hoosier companies down here, and then to meet in person. And so, yes, this is my second trip of the year, but there will be more to come because of the good that comes from these trips. And when I say good, I mean new opportunity and new investment.
Well, speak to those investments. How have the economic discussions gone?
We've made some progress on some projects that we've been working on, and I hope to have good news to share. It won't be while I'm here, but it'll be hopefully when I'm back at home. And then we've accumulated some new prospects and some new possibilities just by the fact that we're here meeting with large groups of folks who get to hear the Indiana story, which is one of growth and opportunity. And folks want to be part of that. And it means that you got to show up. Mm-hmm. And for a state like Indiana that is such an ag and ag bioscience powerhouse in terms of the One Health space, plant, animal, and human, there's no substitute for being here on the ground in person. And then it also allows us to talk to folks in the manufacturing sector and the life sciences sector. And so we get to wave the Indiana flag and then go as deep into discussions as our counterparts want to. So been extremely productive, government to government, business to business, and people to people.
Well, to that point, Governor, and we appreciate you coming on, what will this mean for Indiana in the long run, the people here?
Yeah, to put it in perspective, in last year through the Indiana Economic Development Corporation, we brought in $28.7 billion in new capital investment committed. And 71% of that $28 billion was foreign direct investment. So that shows you how interconnected the world is and the supply chains are. And for a state like Indiana that grows and makes things, we're the #1 manufacturing state per capita in America. And as I said, we're an ag powerhouse. We feed and fuel the world. And so this allows us to enlarge or expand those operations by meeting with new clients, potential, and soon, I hope, in reality, to build on that momentum. And we have 1,050 international companies already in the state of Indiana, but they're doing business with small, medium, and large businesses in Indiana that are Indiana grown. And so we're all interconnected, and the world is small, made smaller by showing up in technology. And so I like our trajectory. We just got to keep the pedal to the metal and keep developing new relationships.
Governor, did the topic of the border or immigration come up during any of your meetings?
Well, immigration is a topic of concern globally, I don't think anyone's ever witnessed before, being in Asia, Europe, North America, South America. Everyone agrees on legal immigration and the need for more talent. We've had long-standing relationships, Notre Dame, IU, Purdue, student exchanges with both these countries, Brazil and Mexico. We both agree on the need to eliminate fentanyl. How we go about doing it obviously is federal in nature, but through it all, throughout time, these business-to-business relationships are what, and student-to-student relationships, government-to-government relationships are what keeps the fabric together. Mexico just replaced China as America's #1 trading partner. It's critically important to the citizens of Indiana, as it is to the rest of the world, that we continue to grow. And we're going to grow faster together by growing what we do on Hoosier farms and then exporting that to countries all over the world. And that's why these trips are so important.
No doubt. Governor, on a lighter note, and I have about 30 seconds left, I understand you had a chance to speak with Caitlin Clark the other day. What was that like?
It was exciting for me to know the best is yet to come, because the best is coming to Indiana. And she's going to make really good talent that's already on the fever even better collectively. They're all going to play off of each other. And I just couldn't be more excited that Caitlin is going to be a real Hoosier when she becomes a star in the WNBA like she has been throughout her career to date.
Exciting times here in the Circle City. Governor Eric Holcomb, good to see you. Thank you for joining us on a very busy night. Thank you.
Good to be with you, and can't wait to be home with you.
We'll see you soon. All right, coming up, we turn our attention to a Democratic primary for Congress. Welcome back. Republicans in the 5th Congressional District aren't the only ones with a contested primary. 2 Democrats are running for that primary's nomination there. Our government reporter Garrett Bergquist sat down with one of them, Deborah Pickett.
Let's bring in Deborah Pickett. Deborah, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
So why are you running for Congress?
I am running for Congress in part because I am was a former United States Army reservist, and actually had my daughter was also a United States Army reservist, and my son-in-law is a Marine and currently serving actually in Norway. And I have been deeply concerned by the attacks on our democracy and the attacks on our personal rights. That's the main reason.
Tell me how your background prepared you for this role.
I would say that there's an accumulation of experiences that helped prepare me for this role. One is that my military experience as an Army reservist, serving as a behavioral science specialist, and then also as with the logistics unit, and then my experience working on international trade and economic studies at Hudson Institute as a researcher. That's actually the reason why that I came out to Hudson Institute, out to Indiana many years ago, was to join Hudson Institute. And then also the other area of experience that I think is invaluable is all my years of serving on different boards, volunteering, has given me a great sense of what is the sort of the community spirit, what are the issues that are impacting Americans and in their daily lives.
Democrats have made abortion rights a central part of their platforms ever since the Dobbs ruling 2 years ago. Would you support federal legislation to protect access to abortion services?
Absolutely. I think that is critical. I think that is, I completely agree with that. Codifying Roe v. Wade would be one of my priorities.
Would there be any sort of gestational age limit?
You know, I have found that while I've been out on the campaign trail, that there are women will come up to me and talk about very complicated pregnancies that they had. And so I really believe that it's a decision that should be made between a woman and the doctor. Most women don't even want to be faced with that decision of having to have an abortion. And if they do, most abortions happen within the first trimester.
Republicans have accused Democrats of being weak on immigration and border security. Now, what is your plan on those fronts?
First of all, I absolutely believe that and Americans believe, and Hoosiers believe, that there needs to be that when people come to this country, they need to comply with the legal framework and the legal laws. I would be very much in favor of making sure that the court systems. That there are increased number of resources for judges, that the visas are revised, the visa requirements are revised, and that the immigration policy actually takes into account the great labor needs that we have in the state of Indiana. And also, there's been a lot of discussion about debt. Well, you know, immigrants do a lot to drive the economy. So we're not necessarily, this is a complex issue, and it needs to be explored. All of the different aspects, both the pros and the cons, need to be explored. And that would be something that, as Congresswoman, I would be doing.
I want to go back to something you said at the beginning of this interview. You said that you're running because of what you characterize as attacks on democracy. If you were elected to Congress, what would you do about that?
It has been to the detriment of the American people and to Hoosiers to see the chaos that has been unfolding in Congress under the leadership of the Republicans. And it is appalling to me that you have so many legislators who have continued to support a president, Donald Trump, who has really incited an insurrection. So it would be, I would continue to be in my position, would be uphold the United States Constitution, and I would follow the proper protocol that is required, and I would perform that function with honesty, with integrity, and competence on behalf of fellow Hoosiers.
What's one issue we haven't talked about that you believe is not getting enough attention this election cycle?
The focus of my campaign has been not only on our democracy, protecting our democracy, protecting and advancing our personal rights, but it also has to do with effective and efficient government. And that has to do with making sure that the agencies that work on behalf of Americans are well funded, that they are well staffed, that the IRS has all the resources it needs to make sure that they can audit tax returns of the very wealthy, that agencies like the Environmental Protection Agency are well staffed and have the resources, that the money that we secure on behalf of Hoosiers is sufficient enough so that the federal mandates can be implemented at the state level.
Coming up, Indiana's best political team on the crisis between Iran and Israel and a DOJ investigation of Indiana's largest police department. And welcome back to All Indiana Politics as we welcome in two members of Indiana's best political team, Democrat Kip Tu and Republican Allie Bartlett. Let's begin with the situation in the Middle East, guys. Israel launched airstrikes against Iran after Iran launched strikes against Israel. Allie, how does this change the conversation around aid for Israel in Congress?
Yeah, so obviously this is a really complicated topic and one that has really been going on for a lot longer than just after this week. The aid topic that we're seeing come up in Congress right now is also tied to the Ukraine discussion. To directly answer your question, I think that this encourages those that think, that we need to continue to provide financial aid to Israel and similar allies. So I think it just adds that extra bit of motivation to push for additional aid to Israel, outside of just public support.
Kip, could this harden attitudes, in your opinion, between more mainstream Democrats and the party's progressive wing when it comes to Israel?
I don't think Iran's going to impact it. Iran and Israel have been in basically what I guess has been called a shadow war for years. Iran through Hezbollah and Hamas and other proxies. Israel, of course, through targeted killings and sabotage of military programs. It's scary that it's escalated, hostilities on both sides. But I think both sides are playing a little bit of shadow boxing here so that they can tell their constituencies that, we got them back. Yeah. I'm hopeful that that's all this is, and it's not going to lead to something wider. We can ill afford it. But, Ali and I agree on this, at least, and that is this is a conflict that's been going on for longer than both of our lives, and it's not going to be ending soon.
Yeah, probably going to keep going on. Let's turn now to local politics. IMPD Chief Chris Bailey has asked the U.S. Department of Justice to review police shootings. Indianapolis police officers shot 19 people last year. Kip, the NAACP points out that many of those shot were black men. Might this review help improve relations between IMPD and communities of color?
Well, look, I think Chief Bailey is really probably one of the best chiefs of police anywhere in the United States, and this is proof that he's willing to make the hard decisions, even when some on his command may not agree with him. Bringing in an independent view of this because it is concerning to him and it's concerning to the community, and as it should be. And I think it's the right move, and I think Chief Bailey has the gravitas and the respect of his troops, if you will, and the rest of the city to be able to effectuate this, and I think it's a good move.
Allie, your thoughts?
I don't disagree that it's good to have outside independent consultation on things like this. It's also not costing the city anything. It's being funded through a separate grant. I do hope that as part of the information gathered on something like this, that they will also consider the officer safety element, because we've seen, very an increase in issues and tensions with officers as well. And officer safety is just as important. And a lot of times with these shootings that we're seeing, it's not unprovoked. It's not like an officer is shooting someone just to shoot them. And so I'm hoping that something like this will look at both sides so that we can also increase safety for our officers and hopefully be able to recruit new officers to the IMPD as a result.
Yeah. And if I could add one thing to that, I think IMPD is to be commended also for body cameras and now moving forward with in-car video so that we have greater transparency and that we do get both sides.
Yeah. Hey, speaking of IMPD, two Democratic state lawmakers want the legislature to look into increasing the penalty for reckless homicide. And this, of course, comes after the man convicted of killing Officer Breanne Leath was sentenced to time served. Allie, would this help in future cases like this one?
I think the response is very appropriate. I think everyone was shocked by the result in that case, and I do think that it is appropriate to look into a change in this law because oftentimes, judges are restricted by the law on how we can sentence these types of crimes, and so I do think it makes sense to look into it, and I think it's a responsible next step.
Any concern, Kip, about over-sentencing?
I don't have it on, it's always worth looking at, and especially the high profile of this case and the very surprising result that it's appropriate to take another look.
Okay, an IPS parent, I have about a minute left, is suing after they say a teacher encouraged students to punch and kick her son, who has special needs. Now, state lawmakers this year rejected a proposal to require security cameras in all special ed classrooms. Kip, given this particular case, should lawmakers maybe reconsider that decision? 30 seconds.
I think I'm going to answer it the same way I answered the last one. I think it's definitely all right, appropriate for the legislature to take another look at the decision they made in light of this. I do believe, that IPS has taken the necessary steps. I think the guy's been separated from his job. Yeah. And it seems to me, at least from the video that we see, that was an appropriate action to take. I think there's both sides. There are both sides arguments whether we want cameras in the classrooms. There's definitely downsides to that as well.
Almost out of time, Allie. I want to bring you in. Take us home. 30 seconds.
I don't think Kip and I have ever agreed this much on anything ever. So this is a record-breaking episode, but I largely agree. I think, obviously when we see a report like this, it's easy to have a quick response to say, oh, cameras in every classroom. But remember that most teachers are good-natured, and it's hard to say there should be cameras in every classroom when hopefully this is just kind of an isolated incident and there has been a response. Obviously we want to keep.
We will leave it right there. Good conversation. Good to see you both. Happy Sunday. We'll talk to you soon. Thank you. We'll be right back. Thank you for joining us for All Indiana Politics. We'll be back here next Sunday morning at 9:30. And be sure to tune in at 11 o'clock for The Hill Sunday with Chris Steyerwalt. Have a great rest of your weekend.
From Wish TV, this is All Indiana Politics Podcast on the All Indiana Podcast Network. Watch All Indiana Politics live Sunday mornings at 9:30 on Wish TV and at wishtv.com. Subscribe to this podcast and listen weekly here on the All Indiana Podcast Network. And be sure to discover even more great podcasts at allindianapodcastnetwork.com.